There's a lot of things I love about this community. I think it's an incredibly authentic community.
Church in general is one of the few places where I can still get intergenerational community and where I can meet people of very different ideas and beliefs, which is unusual. People think of church as almost like a place where everyone believes the same thing, but for me, church is where I get the most diversity in opinion.
The people who are here are fully themselves. The community invites people to come and to bring themselves in the fullness of their being. My name's Edmund Harris. I'm the rector here at St. Peter's, and I've been here since 2015.
So I wound up marrying into the church in 1966. Described myself as a social cultural Buddhist and really didn't know anything about Christianity at the time.
I was actually born into the church. My grandfather helped build the church, and my mother and father went to this church.
I taught Sunday school here at St. Peter's for many years as a staff member, and then a few years into it decided to officially change from my home church where I grew up, where I hadn't actually been in many years, to be at St. Peter's, since this is where I felt like my community was. This is where I was worshiping every Sunday and where I had created new relationships and new ties. To me, the most unique thing about St. Peter's is the history.
There's only a handful of Japanese American churches who have the experience of being founded and then having their lives completely disrupted by the war. This church closed for 3 years, and virtually all of its members were forcibly exiled to live in concentration camps. And then they came back. They built this beautiful sanctuary just years after the war and made this a place of worship and service and prayer for generations.
And I think especially coming back after being a people in exile for 3 years in concentration camps, this was a place that was of solace and comfort. And people needed that in order to be healed and to grow and to be nurtured from the experience of forced evacuation and exclusion.
There is this sense of wanting to hold on to that tradition and honor it, and we see that a lot in sort of how we do church and how we look at our traditions, but at the same time, it's still very active and modern politically, and it feels like that part of Jesus that is here to disrupt the system and to always be advocating for change is happening right alongside the most traditional religious practices.
Another thing I love about it is how hospitable it is and how welcoming it is. This is a community that really gets deep hospitality, and I don't know where that comes from. I imagine part of it is that this is a community that experienced very much the opposite of hospitality during the war, when members were incarcerated in concentration camps and had to leave their homes and spend 3 years of their lives away from Seattle, and then they came back. So I imagine that experience is part of what inspires this community to be welcoming toward others now, so that people today have the experience of knowing how welcome they are.
This church has gone through quite a transformation from a predominantly Japanese American church to church that is more inclusive of all people.
We really have embraced that, and that we feel that in our hearts, that we really can welcome people and we really mean it.
That history informs even people who join today. You know, it's like, I'm not Japanese American, that's not part of my personal story, but it feels like it's part of my church story, because I feel like it is part of my duty, like I am a steward of that history as a member of St. Peter's, because it's important, it needs to be preserved.
I think I encounter God most powerfully at St. Peter's during communion, when once a week I have this privileged perspective in which I get to place the bread, the body of Christ, into people's hands, and I get to see their faces. And it is this moment of incredible tenderness and beauty and vulnerability. It's us, this community, at our most authentic when we're at the communion rail, receiving the body of Christ, being fed.
But yet it's that circular motion about we come to this place to be refreshed and renewed, our base camp, You know, we get fed at the table, and then I'm going to send you out into the world to do that work that we're called to do.
We practice giving and receiving love here so that we can go out in the world and give and receive love out in the world as well. There is just a profound sense of joy in this place. It's not like a thin happiness or denial that things in life are hard. It's just this really deep, abiding joy. And we've seen it even more powerfully, I think, since coming back after COVID, because people missed just being physically together. And even though very few people who experienced the war are still alive today, what I notice is that spirit of resilience and perseverance is being passed down.
When I come to church, I'm always reminded of how God is here. And the beauty of the church, the peace of the people, our coffee hour, the visual beauty, the scent of the church is what makes me remember that God is here.
If you're new to church, you probably have some ideas about what church might be like, or what Christians are like, or what happens in worship. But I would say to come here with an open heart, trusting that there is a community of beautiful people who are waiting to welcome you just as you are, with no strings attached.
You can show up however you currently are and with whatever you currently believe, and we are happy to have you here. If you decide that you belong here and that you can grow here, then we're going to be happy to have you stay. But that won't involve you having to conform to the church. It's about whether or not we fit together, not whether or not we can make ourselves fit together.